Okay, so now I want to speak a little bit more about do you know somebody being gang stalked? Now, this in general is to help people who may be family members of a target or friends of a target or a coworker of a target. It could be a neighbor of a target. It could be just a random stranger who has no idea what gang stalking is but wants to become more familiar with what's happening. So, for instance, if somebody is just started going through gang stalking and they come to you and they seem really confused and they're saying that people tend to be yelling and this is for them. Like every time they leave their house and come back to their house, there's people yelling on purpose just because of their entry and exit. That could be a direct sign of what's known as noise campaigns. Noise campaigns are a form of gang stalking. It's a tactic used within gang stalking to basically group stalk, group bully the individual. It could be car doors slamming at specific times. So an individual can wake up and get going on their day. They're going outside or about to go outside, and they can hear individuals slamming car doors in one of the houses around them. Or this could be going on at work. It may not be within their living space. It can be going on at work. If they're a student, it could be going on, in the parking lots at the school. Whenever individual is coming or going from an area, usually a noise campaign usually follows if they're truly being targeted by gang stalking. So, and then cars pulling up and taking off. An individual could be outside or they could be in their home. And with the noise campaigns, usually like when they're in their home, a car will like pull up and just peel out and speed up, or a car may go by and honk the horn. That came out in the news. There's a news clip on that, how there was a noise campaign on these individuals, and people kept pulling up and honking the horn over and over again. Loud stereos, that's used a lot. Now I want to explain something to people. If you're in your home and you're a target of gang stalking, your movements within your home are known. There's videotapes. It's in real time. It's not a videotape, but in real time, from satellites or from drones, or it could be somebody around you in their house with a camera or whatever. Your general whereabouts are going to be observed. So if you wake up in the middle of the night to go get a glass of water, and the next thing you know, start hearing car doors get slammed, or you start hearing a loud stereo playing or whatnot, or you hear people just within seconds or within a minute come outside and start making a lot of noise, that's not by chance. The noise campaign is basically there to distract you, to get your attention. So it's not necessarily that the people creating the noise know your whereabouts, but it's networked within that way. So say for instance, again, I wake up, go get a glass of water, somehow somebody knows my activity to do that. Then on top of that, somebody is alerted, hey, create this assignment. Create an assignment for somebody to go slam a car door, or create an assignment for somebody to start yelling, or have somebody drive by playing loud music. On a high level of gang stalking, stuff like this is constantly happening to individuals. So again, if somebody comes to you and they're trying to describe this type of activity, the person literally is telling you exactly what's happening. Now, the way they interpret it for themselves is critical. So again, you're going to be hearing a lot of people online, or people that, again, if somebody comes to you and tells you they're being gang stalked, they may describe it as something off the wall. They may say, oh, it's people possessed by evil spirits and they're doing this, yada yada. No, this is organized and orchestrated, specifically by people, and there's money at play. People are getting prepaid credit cards, restaurant discounts, all kinds of stuff to do this. It's very interesting stuff. But so a noise campaign is something an individual is going to be going through. Within the confusion stage of gang stalking, the individual, again, might not know what gang stalking is. They just feel, hey, somebody's being rude to me. I'm going out and I'm going to work. And every time I go to work and I go inside the building, these people are outside and they're yelling and they're slamming their car doors, or somebody's driving by playing loud music. I go to the store or I go out to eat from work, and people are pulling up, peeling out their car, driving out fast and stuff, playing loud music and all that stuff. And so it's going to sound like the person's paranoid or delusional, but these are all campaigns directed at the person specifically. Brightening, cars flashing their lights. People being followed by cars with the brights on is a big sign of gang stalking. That's a tactic known as brightening. Other names for it is like gaslighting. Sometimes it'll be a car with one headlight following them throughout the day, broad daylight brightening. And one of the big things on that is a lot of people say, a lot of cars come on with the lights on automatically. Sometimes it'll be like the parking lights on, or the high beams on, the emergency lights. But I've seen it often with cars that don't come on, the brights don't come on automatically, or the headlights don't come on. You're talking about older models of cars. I've seen cars gang stalking me that go all the way back to like the 50s. And then you're talking about a lot of cars doing it. This isn't just one or two cars doing this. You can be sitting there walking down the street and you'll come across numerous cars. Before I started going through gang stalking, I never paid attention to if cars had their headlights on. So if somebody was next to me being gang stalked and they would have been trying to tell me, hey, look at this, I wouldn't even know what to look for. Because car lights, I never paid attention to car lights. And so if somebody's coming here and they're saying being gang stalked, listen to what they're saying and say, what do you mean the brights on the car are constant? And see if you can get on footage so you can analyze it and say, what are the odds of X amount of cars having their brights on? When I go out, somebody who's not being gang stalked, when they go out in the world, they're not going to come across that many cars with the brights on. But for somebody who is being gang stalked, with the brightening tactic, it's going to be like 5 times the amount of cars, easily 5 times the amount of cars with headlights and brights on. It's just a tactic known as brightening. Now, a lot of people say, well, big deal, a car is following you with the brights on. After this happens to individuals so much, it creates a lot of you'll have people doing the brightening. People will be faced with noise campaigns. There'll be people could be having electronic weapons on them. There's various forms of group stalking, so everybody's going through this stuff at the same time. It's just not one thing happening. It's a constant influx of different types of tactics that are being used, and it adds to an overall orchestration. So it's not just car headlights. Car headlights, big deal. They're not hitting you. Are they hurting you? They put your hands on you? No. But it's involved in an overall orchestration. That's the point I think a lot of people who get gang stalked are trying to convey, is this stuff is so much stuff happening. These people are under psychological attack 24/7. Strange phone calls. So if you're getting gang stalked, you may get strange phone calls coming to your phone, numbers that you don't know who they are, and they could be from like telemarketing services, different sorts of people. It's like sort of like a little phone campaign. They'll keep calling your phone from all these strange numbers, or if somebody's around you, they'll actually have people call their numbers to mess with you. You'll be sitting there with a friend hanging out, and they may just start getting random phone calls from all these different people that they don't even know, telemarketers or people they do know, and it's just networked that way. It sounds like strange stuff, but this is exactly what happens when somebody's being gang stalked. Threats. It's possible when somebody first starts getting gang stalked. This happens a lot. A lot of times they'll get threats, or they'll be told what they were doing. A lot of times people will be told, you were at this store earlier, or they'll get just weird things sent to their phone describing who they are and what they've been doing, or it'll be said in a way that's like threatening, subliminal threatening, or maybe direct. You can get like, it can be like racist stuff. It can be all different types of stuff. And I want to make a point that a lot of this stuff starts happening to people when they're in the confusion stage of it. So a lot of times they don't know what's happening. They don't understand that there's an overall orchestration, and they're going back to their family members and their friends, and they're trying to explain to people, this is what's happening to me, this is happening to me. And now they're being told they're, of course, delusional. And so, again, if you're a family member or a friend or a coworker and people are telling you these things, try to build an educational awareness of gang stalking and how it works. And then if you were to sit down and explain to people, like, hey, I came across some information online that spoke about gang stalking and group stalking, and they said people following you with their brights on is a form of that. These noise campaigns, group stalking, people wearing red shirts, constantly following an individual, the color coding. If somebody's just started getting gang stalked and they had somebody pull them to the side and tell them these things, you would be surprised the world of difference it would make. I've received easily over 100 emails of people congratulating me on the work I've been presenting about gang stalking since the early summer, since June of 2016, I started presenting work on how to beat gang stalking and get through it. And I've gotten emails from all over the world, from literally people telling me that I've saved their life, to people telling me they wouldn't know what to do if they had not seen my video, or saying that the video was inspirational. But mind you, there's a lot of other people out there who got really great stuff online. But I was just shocked that my YouTube videos actually had that much of an effect on people I don't even know. People in Europe, people in Africa. So it made me feel like, wow, like if I don't know these people and I can create a YouTube video describing for people how they can get through gang stalking and what to look for, and that's a really inspirational thing. So part of my motivation for coming up with videos to help people be gang stalking isn't so much about me saying, I'm a victim of it and poor me, I need help, or I want to inspire myself making YouTube videos. A lot of it is a way for me to vent the frustration of gang stalking, but better yet, if I can actually help an individual based on what's happened to me, then that means everything. If there's one person out there who is prone to committing suicide, or who is prone to possibly go out and do violent behavior, or who might end up in a psychiatric place because they're confused about what's happening, if my testimony about how gang stalking works and my advice can actually prevent that or stop that from happening, then that's a wonderful thing for me. Okay, so the confusion stage. Now the distraction stage comes next, and so the confusion stage can last for a lengthy period of time. It's all based on the target. So what used to be years, individuals who got gang stalked many years ago, and I've spoken to a woman who had been getting gang stalked in Detroit since the early 80s. But people who get gang stalked, if they don't come online and they don't recognize they're being gang stalked, or if nobody around them tells them they're being gang stalked, they might just not know what's going on, and they can stay there for years. So the sooner they are told what gang stalking is and how this stuff works, and the sooner they face their own fears, the sooner they can move out of the confusion stage of gang stalking. Now, facing their fears is tough. A lot of people become isolated, they become withdrawn, they don't want to get involved in the world, they're just terrified of what's going on, and that's not healthy. To any length, that's not healthy at all. Now, when I first started realizing I was being gang stalked, I used to go stand on the corner and watch motor vehicles come and go, and I started recognizing how this was happening, how these people were gang stalking me. I started noticing the color coding. I would notice that when I walked out for miles and miles and miles, on hikes and different types of walks, people would come in with the brightening tactics. And if I was walking in an area where there was no sidewalk, cars would come like they were going to hit me. Like they would think like they were going to literally hit me and run me over and kill me or whatnot. And they would go out of their way to do this. Like they would actually come right in front of me and start speeding, and then last minute turn off. It got into a scenario where sometimes I would start playing with the cars. I would start walking towards the cars when they were doing this, and they would turn off completely and go even more. So I got used to doing this. Then I started waving at the people that I knew were a part of the gang stalking assignments, and they started waving back. And so I created a familiarity with these individuals. Then it came to a point in time where sometimes I would start approaching the individuals. When I went out to restaurants and different sorts of places, or just socially walking on the street, different individuals will be looking at me, and they would be a part of the gang stalking assignments. Again, 90% of them might not even know what gang stalking even was. And I would just approach them and start talking to them and asking them, did they know what gang stalking was? In the spring of 2016, I really started getting into it. And I noticed all sorts of people participating in the gang stalking. Some of them were even police officers. This was over in Phoenix, Arizona. And I started waving at them, and they started being polite and smiling back at me. And it was really strange, because then it made me feel like, wait a minute, what's happening here? I thought these people hated me and they wanted to do something. So, you know what I mean? It changed the whole scenario of it. And so it created more of a middle ground. And I started realizing, wait a minute, if I'm waving at them and smiling at them, and they're gang stalking me, but they're being polite and I'm being polite, then that means that this situation can change. I can actually alter the situation from a fearful state and an angry state and alter it into a state that's more comfortable, thus coming up with my strategies for beating gang stalking. So I would just walk down the street and just walk up to people and shake their hand and talk to them and be polite and be responsible and be respectful. It was at this point that my food started getting covertly drugged. Now, mind you, 90% of the people who were gang stalking me didn't even know what gang stalking was. A lot of them did. You know, a lot of them would, but most of them didn't. And so then I started realizing I was being like, you know, I'd go to a restaurant, I'd eat, I'd get dizzy. It would be like some of the times, I don't know what the drugs were they were putting in there, but sometimes it would be really messed up. Like the feeling you would get, you just feel like out of it, like, oh man, am I going to die or is this going to get worse? And at that point, I realized like the best way to deal with this isn't to go withdraw myself and go somewhere and like lay down or whatever. It just, you got to keep going through this. And so at that point I had a jump rope and I would go back out on the street and I'd walk down the street high off the drug, or, you know, messed up off, I don't know if high is the right word, but messed up off this covert drugging, and I'd be jump roping and I'd go back out and start waving back at the people, start talking to them again. And so I didn't let this covert drugging thing stop me from getting through this gang stalking experience I was going through. And so then it turned into a thing where I'd approach people and tell them that, you know, the people who were doing the assignments gang stalking, I'd go into stores and people would be acting really strange, and I would just tell them straight up what gang stalking was. I'd tell them I beat gang stalking, and I would start to explain to them how gang stalking works. And 9 times out of 10, the people would actually listen to what I was saying, and they would be respectful. And I changed the mood of the whole store. When I first went in there, it was an uncomfortable feeling. When I walked out, the people working there had a whole different view of what they were a part of, and a lot of times they'd be polite. There was one time I went from like store to 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 store, just going in there back in the early summer of 2016. I just go in there and just start talking to people randomly, and telling them, you know, what gang stalking was, what was going on. I just got so sick of the feeling. I got so sick of being followed by all these people. I got so sick of having my food drugged. I got so sick of having people using electronic. I just got so sick of that way of life that I said that something has to, you know, I'm not going to go out like this. And so I just started hitting the people up, and I never stopped. You know, since then I just never stopped telling people. I've slowed down a little bit. At this point in time, I've approached so many people about gang stalking, I already know how it goes. You walk up to them, you talk to them, some of them will be responsive and some of them won't. So I had to go through that whole phase for a while. So that's what broke me out of the confusion stage, was being assertive and being direct and openly communicating with people about what gang stalking was. And that whole time that I was going through that, all this stuff was in effect. The noise campaigns, the cars with the brightening, the color coding, just massive amounts of people doing group stalking, going into stores, and the people would be involved with the gang stalking, and then leaving the stores, going wherever out in the world. It's constantly going. And so I was developing these strategies, you know, again, within all that. So now the confusion stage for the average individual is going to be difficult for them to get through. A lot of people just aren't going to want to go out into the world and face this kind of stuff. At least they can do it in their daily life. If they're talking to a friend or a family member, if they can just sit down and talk about what's been going on in their life and what gang stalking is, they can start there. But for the person to for the person to actually go through their life in a social format and go to work every day, or attend a university, or have some sort of social gathering, or, you know, have a family life, they're going to have to learn how to address this at some point. They're not going to. A lot of people will think, wait a minute, if you just be quiet and mind your own business and don't say anything about it, it'll get better and it'll go away. It doesn't work that way. That's one of the first things I thought was, wait a minute, if I just stay in the house all the time, or if I go out and I try to shy away, then the gang stalking, it actually gets worse, because the mindset behind the individual's group stalking you, it's a predatory mindset. It's not a negotiable situation. They're not just going to leave you alone and stop gang stalking you. If they think something's bothering you, they're going to intensify it as much as possible. That's exactly what happens. So if they perceive you as having a weakness, they're going to intensify that. So the last thing you want to do is actually withdraw your presence or withdraw your voice and sort of hide. That's just going to intensify it, and it's going to make you lose whatever connection you have to the life around you. Okay, so again, now with the confusion stage, again, people and objects are used. Audio, like we talked about, the noise campaigns, natural noise and unnatural noise. Electronic weapons can be used. Chemical, that's covert drugging, can be used. But a lot of this stuff isn't very easily identifiable in pattern format. It's going to seem very random. In the confusion stage, it seems very random. Then getting out of the confusion stage, the second stage, I call it distraction stage, that's when everybody's going to pretty much, everybody who's gang stalking you, they're pretty much going to get and accept the fact that you know what's going on. You know you're being gang stalked. You've seen individuals doing assignments on you. You may have even determined and figured out some of the bigger sources, some of the bigger people who are behind the orchestrations of you being gang stalked. You may have even come into awareness of that. And so at this point, they're going to look to use more of a deeper psychological, emotional distraction. First, the group stalking was trying to use your own ignorance against you, keep you confused, keep you thinking all these different people are stalking you. The real people who are group stalking you are hiding behind that effect. Out of 100%, 10 of them are sort of hiding. They know exactly what's going on. They're plotting on you day and night. They're talking with each other. They're having strategy meetings. Oh yeah, well we really got to mess them up this time. We do this. You know, they're giving high fives and all that stuff. And the 90% of the people that are gang stalking you are sort of oblivious. They're a part of it, but they might not even know what gang stalking is. They're sort of oblivious to the overall orchestration. So coming into the distraction stage, the main people behind it, they're saying, oh, we got to let's see what different characters we can get involved. How much does the target identify with this person? Or how much does the target identify with this subject? Let's incorporate that into the themes of the gang stalking to create more of a more of a psychological attack. So that's when a lot of people realize they'll be seeing different, they'll be seeing, hey, I thought me and such had a good relationship, but now they're doing all this strange stuff and they're a part of the gang stalking. Yeah, the people behind the scenes who are orchestrating it, they've realized that you've taken a step forward. You've beat the confusion stage, and you've been going through covert drugging, you've been going through electronic weapons, you've been going through a whole array of things, which is heavily financed and networked, but you've been able to move forward. And so now comes time to, we got to find something within this person to mess with their mind. Does he get along with this person, or does he have an interest in this woman? Or now they're looking to target you more emotionally, to hit more of a nerve within you. And then once they think they found a formula, then they try to repeatedly do it. So every day you go out into the world, the individuals who are orchestrating the group stalking, they want to repeatedly use something that they think they found it. And so that's a lot of people getting gang stalked a lot of them go through hell, to be honest with you. Throughout their day, they're constantly being followed by intensive group stalking, and through the mimicking of the themes, this is close emotional stuff, and it's spread out across. You got different people coming in, playing different roles and all this stuff, and so it's very hectic. I gave an analogy. Okay, say a man was working for a company. Say he was working for Coca-Cola, and he had a bad falling out with his boss, and he got fired from Coca-Cola, and later on in his life he ended up getting gang stalked. Well, the group stalkers will start having people wearing, they might start having people wearing Coca-Cola shirts or whatever, or then they'll go find the guy's ex-wife, have her wearing a Coca-Cola shirt. So now he has his ex-wife gang stalking him with the company Coca-Cola shirt that he got fired from, and 24/7 he's seeing other people wearing the Coca-Cola shirts. Now this is creating a real big psychological dilemma for the individual, on top of all the gang stalking that's already going on top of the electronic weapons, the covert drugging, yada yada yada. And so, I don't know if I can ever really put into terms how it would feel for somebody going through that. If you've never heard of gang stalking and you don't know what it is, I don't know how I can put this into terms. I guess you would have to be there with the person going through it, and see beyond the brightening, the color coding, the various tactics that are used. You got to be able to see beyond that and get into how deep this stuff really is, how badly they're trying to mess with a person's mind. Now, coming past the distraction stage into the sensitization stage, the hopes that they have, that the group stalking effect has, is they want to get you used to living like this. So not only you got through the confusion stage and you got into the distraction stage where you're getting bombarded with all this stuff, now they want to get you used to this being a way of life. So before, they would have had to do something 10, 20 times during the day to mess with you. Now they're hoping they only got to do it 5 times a day because it's happened to you already so much. They're hoping that they can do it a couple of times and then hit that sensitive spot and mess with your psyche. And so the sensitization process is basically trying to build what I call real estate in the person's mind, getting inside their mind and making them identify with this. They want you to identify with the group stalking and get you normalized to it so you accept it as a way of life. They're trying to use the power of your own mind against you. Now, only your own mind can do this. These individuals are doing constant networking, spending countless dollars with no real return on the investment. They don't know how it's going to play out. But they're going through all this process and they're spending all this energy just for you, just for the target. So they're trying to trick your own mind into accepting this reality. Now again, and that gets back into confusion. Even though the confusion stage was the first stage, a lot of people who become sensitized to this stuff, they still have a level of confusion because when they go out in the world, they don't know what's going to happen. You know that you're going to be gang stalked. You know all these common themes are going to be going on, but you want to meet people, you want to talk to new people, and you're confused as how to do that. You're confused as how to relate to people how you're being gang stalked without sounding like you're crazy. You don't want to sound delusional. You're paranoid as to how you're perceived from the world. So there still is a sense of confusion for most people. So my message mainly, I guess, is probably for the people who have already accepted that there's something going on with gang stalking. Maybe an individual will believe it to some degree and say, well, I can believe this is possible, or I can see that there's something going on. That's enough to start with. And so that's it right there, the confusion stage. So when I say beat gang stalking, just start right there. Just start with getting yourself familiar with what gang stalking is, building that knowledge. If you're a family member or a friend of the target, you can help them beat that stage by making them it's okay. You can accept that this person's being gang stalked. For somebody to stand up and say, I see that you're being gang stalked and I accept that, and you can work with you can say, I might not have all the answers for it, or I may not know what to do, or I may not know exactly how to help you, but I can accept this is happening to you. That's the first door to a solution. And so that's a remedy, so to speak, for the confusion stage. And then with the distraction stage, you can still try to build a format and say all this stuff is going on, but there, you can still take other roads and try to find out other things to do with your life. That's not it. You know what I mean? Just being gang stalked all day, walking around being gang stalked, there's still goals and opportunities, and there's still a way of life you can have even within all this. And so that was another message of my courses on how to beat gang stalking, was getting individuals to accept that there's life outside of that. Don't make your whole life bent on you being a victim of gang stalking. Still set goals for yourself and look for new opportunities and find new ways to network and fight through the gang stalking. Always look to strike a new blow, so to speak. And then the sensitization process, that doesn't even have to happen. As long as the person has an open mind and they're constantly fighting for new opportunities, the sensitization process will never happen. Not really. It may, you'll be aware you're being gang stalked, but to sit down and accept that as a way of life, that never has to happen. So, all right. So I encourage people, if you have any questions or whatever, if you know somebody who is being gang stalked and you have actual questions as to what may be going on with the individual, or is the individual in danger beyond gang stalking or whatever, like, you feel free to contact me. I can give you whatever advice I can offer. But again, I consider myself, I'm not an expert on gang stalking, but I am an expert on the target's approach to gang stalking. I've been through gang stalking and went through almost every scenario anybody can imagine.